I think, especially as Thanksgiving comes up, I've been really thinking of a way to give back. And I think one of the coolest ideas I've had is maybe do like a hackathon for like middle schoolers. 'Cause I've always loved teaching middle schoolers programming. I did it with at UMD before I even got to UMD. But you know, like back in high school, I did it with my cousins, and it's always just been a fun experience. I also did like a summer camp before I graduated high school, kind of. But I've always loved that aspect. And I really think hackathons are one of the greatest ways to just improve in a short amount of time and just get a bunch of inspiration. However, I also know that like the idea of the hackathon I have in mind wouldn't be for like a bunch of experienced middle schoolers because I feel like you're pretty well off if you're really experienced in middle school. I think it'll be more so for people who think tech is cool or have like the slightest interest and want to try out something new. And they'll just be like, okay, come here. Then you do like some vibe coding stuff. I think where I get iffy is the vibe coding because I use vibe coding all the time, if I'm being honest. However, I also know because I use it all the time the limits and the dangers of it. So like one thing, one of the biggest issues I run into is like when I'm working on a very technical project with stuff I have no familiarity with. For example, Crowdflow is a Omniverse extension, an NVIDIA Omniverse extension, and it's basically meant to simulate it crowds and given certain physical constraints and see emerging behavior. A lot of stuff I don't know. So if I just leave it to Copilot, Claude, and all that, then what happens is that at a point I accumulate technical debt, and it's going to get somewhere in the code. I can promise you this, where there's going to be a bug, and Copilot, Claude, whatever tool you use, is not going to know how to solve it, and you don't know how to verbalize the instructions to find out how to solve it. So then once that happens, you can't just run to this wall. You don't know, you can't really do anything but go all the way back. So what I've been doing is I do mini project breakdowns. But the only reason I can do that is because I've had at least somewhat of experience. I've been somewhat experienced just learning how to code the regular way. So I know the stuff I'm missing. Like when I encounter a new programming language or a new project, I know the fundamentals I'm meant to look for. I know what I'm meant to understand. And because I know that, I know what I'm missing, right? I know the knowledge gaps. I'm able to better use these tools. But then if you're first introduced into like the agentic coding or vibe coding, whatever term you want to use, then I wonder how that whole dynamic is going to work. And what scares me is that when I teach people coding, I really love to see them get into the field, get that excited, and continue pursuing it. But then, if the case is okay, you use like agent coding for a hackathon, maybe it's like 5 hours, right? And then you get back home, you continue to do some small stuff here and there. You continue to try to do bigger stuff, but you just like at a certain point you become so used to that way of coding that at a certain point you just run into this bug that you don't know the fundamentals. And it's like you just get like, oh dang, I'm not good enough for this, right? Especially as a middle schooler, that's something. Even as an adult, you have that, but as a middle schooler, I think that would be like a big brick wall that would like prevent them from going forward in the field, and that's not something I want. So I've been thinking, how do you how do you manage those two things? 'Cause I think it's very helpful. I don't think, especially for entry level, like for complete beginners, I don't think like trying to do like a 2 hour course on Python and then do a hackathon will be the most helpful. I don't think that's the case, but I also do understand like the fear, and I agree with the fear that if you fall in love with that agentic code and vibe coding stuff without the fundamentals, then you might have a very your path might lead to a dead end. So I really don't know what to do there. But I do think overall I still want to do a hackathon. I think it's gonna be this Thanksgiving because to plan a hackathon does take some time. To find a library to collaborate with would also take some time. But I think it's gonna be one of those things like the Valentine's Day project I did a couple years back, where it's like, okay, I have the idea for this Thanksgiving, and obviously due to the time constraints, I probably wouldn't be able to execute it in time. However, now it's a seed that I've planned in my head, and I can know, okay, as next Thanksgiving comes up or another holiday that inspires the idea of giving or developing comes up, I'll be like, okay, let me start planning this. I remember for the Valentine's Day project, it was originally a Thanksgiving project, and then I was like, okay, that's I couldn't get it done by Thanksgiving, so I shifted it along, and then I found Valentine's Day was the best time to do the project. So stuff like that, I think will definitely help a project like this. I don't think it's gonna be a Valentine's Day project at all. Maybe an Easter project would be really interesting. I think might have more free time in April, but I definitely want to think of a way to give back and just get more people into coding. I think it's something I really loved. I think it's a field that a lot of people should at least dabble in. Even if you're like the medical field, the legal field, any field you're in, I think at least try doing something technical, or maybe like something like digital society, where you at least have like an understanding of how the I guess the tech sector works, like how you have to approach technological developments, like understand the idea of stakeholders and who's impacted, the incentives behind developments of certain technologies and stuff like that is a really important thing. I think helps everyone in the end. Uh, but yeah, I think I'm still going to I'm going to work on the idea. Maybe even Big Think AI could take this on. We have a meeting coming up on Friday for an NVIDIA collab for a hackathon. But that's just like for the college, University of Maryland. But maybe in the future we could do something for K to 12 because I think it's definitely a great way to even like maybe have a feeder program or something like that. But it's a great way to just develop. I don't want to say next generation, but like develop the next generation and programmers. But yeah, honestly, besides that, I have nothing else to say. So have a great day.